it says.
I think we're
So,
live.
okay, I'm gonna go to
Excellent.
multi-stream chat. I'm gonna click go live on Instagram here. Oh, and I'll pull up this chat as well.
Yeah, because you're going to have all the chats in one place, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh. So if you want to pretty much pick a topic, we can do whatever kind of type of situation you want to look at, really.
Okay, cool. Let me see. Oh no, don't do that. Dang it. Okay. 1 second. Just gotta change this. There we go. Okay.
Cool. Hopefully everybody can see and hear us.
Yeah, let us know, guys. Welcome. Also, hello, everybody.
Yes.
We're gonna get
Hello,
started in
everybody.
just a little bit. We're also gonna do a massive giveaway. Matt Hunt is being very generous and gonna give away an entire alliance package to one lucky
Yeah,
member in the
one lucky
chat.
person.
Yeah, so it's gonna
So
be
if you're playing tournaments this summer or really any time, this is the perfect thing. This is what you need.
yeah, huge value, guys. Massive value. So stick around. So I was thinking we could kind of do what we did before, and then also kind of open up to the chat to basically what any topics or things they want to chime in or ask questions
Yeah.
on. Just please feel free, guys. Can hear
Yeah,
a bit
absolutely.
of reverb. Okay. Yeah, I think that's just my room, unfortunately, D Train. I'm in the
It's all good.
process of like trying to get some soundproofing stuff, but yeah, my room is very bare right now. So
Could be me, I suppose. I don't know. I got my fancy lapel mic here, so I think it should be fine when it comes to reverb. We don't
I
usually get much reverb from these
no,
things.
yeah, I definitely have a lot of reverb in this room.
It's all right. You'll get a full streaming setup at some point, right? You'll get
We're
you get all like
working
the
on it.
neon lights behind you and like all the
Yes.
stuff that all the streamers have. You got to get that.
Dude, yeah, I'll have to show you some of this. Like, I want to do the whole like clouds with the lights, and I want to do a
Mm.
whole like really sick setup in here. But this room will be
Yeah.
the last room that I put money in because I mean I'm trying to work on all my other rooms first. Getting a house
Right.
is expensive.
I know that's adult stuff. You gotta really you gotta do a whole bunch of stuff once you buy a house. Like you can't just worry about the stream room.
Yeah, like buy dishes and you know.
Just all that day-to-day stuff that adults need.
Yes, exactly. All right, so it looks like we've got some people joining here. Just
Welcome.
yeah, welcome. And if you're just tuning in, we're going to be doing a giveaway. Matt's going to be giving away a alliance package for the summer. It's huge value. And do you want to just talk a little bit about what it'll be as we get people into the stream?
For sure, yeah. I mean, so basically, the Alliance is it's a 10-week program that I'm running this summer for a group of 20 tournament players, and the idea is to prep everybody for the World Series and give everybody the support network that they need during the series to have their best ever summer here in Vegas, and to give everybody the learning experience that comes along with being part of a group environment, a team environment, as everybody's going through their experience across the summer. So right now, I think we've got 16 or 17 people in the team. We've got a variety of people from different backgrounds. Obviously, Ash is one of them. And we've also got a variety of coaches that are coming in to do guest sessions during the 2-week prep period, which starts on Monday. We've got everybody from high roller crushers like Sam Laskowitz. We've got bracelet winners like Matt Bode. We've got people doing health and fitness sessions. We've got mindset stuff. We've got a mixed games Q&A with Steve Zolotow, which I'm excited about because I've been coaching him the last like 6 months or so, and he's just an absolute poker legend. One of the few people alive who has played poker with Stu Unger, which is kind of amazing. So if you want to pick his brain about anything related to particularly mixed games, but also just general poker topics, some of the 50 years of experience he can pass on to people. It's amazing. So we've got all kinds of prep sessions and coaching sessions available, 20 plus hours of coaching. And of course, the opportunity to be part of that team environment during the summer with the two of us and everybody else who's going to be on board playing WSOP events, trying to win bracelets, and obviously trying to just maximize our ability to grow our game, keep developing as players throughout the entire summer. So that's what you're going to get if you win this giveaway. If you want to enter this giveaway, the way that you're going to do it is it's going to be via typing in chat in whatever platform that you're on. We have a sort of passphrase here to be part of the giveaway. If you want to be part of the giveaway, you have to type "I'm all in for the Alliance" in chat. So if you type that in chat on whatever platform you're watching on, I think you're streaming on what, 4 platforms right now or something like that?
Yeah, 4 platforms, yeah.
4 different platforms, whatever platform you're on, type in chat, "I'm all in for the Alliance." We're going to take note of everybody who types that. We're going to put you all on a big wheel thing that we're going to spin. And in just under an hour, so 6 o'clock Pacific time, I guess that'd be 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Eastern, we're going to close the giveaway. We're going to draw a lucky person who's going to have the opportunity to be part of the Alliance. And whoever is the winner, we'll get in touch with you, and I'll get you everything you need to get set up for your Alliance membership starting with our kickoff meeting on Monday. So
awesome.
I look forward to seeing who's going to be the lucky winner today. But in the meantime, we're going to dive into some studying, right? So let's try to figure out what we're going to look at.
Cool, yeah. And John had a question in the Instagram chat. He said,
Sure.
Are you guys both playing full schedules this summer? I'll let you go first on that one.
Absolutely. Every single summer, I look forward to WSOP more than any other time of year. I'm going to probably play, well, it's funny. I was going to say I'm going to probably play 50 plus entries this summer, but really you want to play less entries because you want to just constantly make day 2s and day 3s, right? So you want to be playing only 30, 35 entries. You don't want to be re-entering everything. But bottom line is I'm going to be playing every day for the 7 weeks of the series pretty much. Obviously a couple of days off here and there, but yeah, I'm always super excited for the series, and this opportunity to kind of be part of a team and be leading a team of people into the series is a really cool thing for me too. So I'm super excited. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I'll be there the whole time as well. I'll be firing everything within reason. For me specifically though, I'll be playing mostly 1500 and under minus the 10K main. So yeah, I'm not going to fire 3Ks or 5Ks. I'm actually going to kind of change my strategy just a little bit this year. I am going to play a little bit more of the lower buy-in, bigger guarantee stuff, like maybe head over to Orleans or Nugget, and just try to fire some of those. I had a rough summer last year, so just still trying to kind of build the tournament bankroll back up, to be completely transparent with y'all, which I'm always gonna be. So yeah, I'm just not gonna be firing like as many big events, but I'll be there the whole summer, just kind of grinding what I can. So yeah, that's my
sounds good.
Yeah, so here I have hopefully, yeah, you guys can see this. Okay, so we have just general MTT spots. So I have it set to where it's going to give us spots from like 30 to 80 big blind stack sizes, in any positions really, and it's gonna play the whole hand through, which I kind of like to do, and also I feel like we can get a lot of spots to talk about within this. So here we have 60 big blinds. The hijack opens to 2.3 bigs. We're on the button with ace-9 offsuit. So we can kind of look at like what our range on the button versus hijack wants to do here. And I'll let you take it away, Matt.
Sure, yeah. I mean, button hijack, it's going to be a formation where we're naturally going to have a pretty wide range, given that we're facing an opening range. It's probably going to be, I mean, if we're talking optimal, it's going to be 23 to 28% of hands a lot of the time. The position that we're in, if we're playing chip EV on the button, is we're going to be able to be pretty wide in a lot of cases. The thing about ace-9 off, though, is it's one of these really awkward hands that it actually is not really, doesn't really benefit that much from being in position, because it doesn't really have much ability to flop hands that get to play aggressively, right? You don't really get to play ace-9 off in a way where you can, apply a lot of pressure and make better hands fold or anything like that, right? It's not a suited connector hand. It's not a hand that flops draws a lot of the time. So you just kind of end up in a lot of situations of playing it relatively passively and just kind of trying to realize some equity. So this is one where I think that, I mean, if I had to guess, it might be mixing all 3 options. It might not be folding at all here and optimal, but I mean, 2.3 open makes it maybe a little bit more likely to fold. So I think there's a variety of options available here. Against cutoff, I would say we probably wouldn't fold. I would expect that call is probably a pretty low frequency, but 3-bet might be in there with a decent frequency here.
Yeah, and I think that with this specific formation with hijack when we're on the button, I think I at some points got a little bit too 3-bet happy in these spots when I actually should have been flatting a lot more, because I'm like, oh, I have the button, let me 3-bet this. But in reality, like not maybe this hand specifically, but like if we flat the button here with a lot of our suited aces or offsuit aces, like we're gonna have the hijack dominated some of the time, or quite a bit, too, and so then we get to just value own them, you know, if whatever. But like, so yeah, I think that this probably mixes, is my guess. How do you want to proceed on this exact time?
You know what? Let's play it through the aggro option. Let's go with the 7.5. Let's go with the 3-bet.
Yeah, and depending on who my opponent is, it's probably gonna depend on that. So that was actually the quote unquote correct answer, but it looked like it was a pure mix between 3-bet and call.
Okay.
And I think So we get the 9 high flop here. So hijack checks it over to us, and the flop is 9-8-5 2 spades. So we flop top pair on a pretty dynamic texture, and so what are your thoughts on that? Actually, this is a kind of a good spot to look at, because we do flop a very good hand on a very wet board, and how our ranges kind of interact with this, both hijack and button.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I think that in large part people tend to kind of, I don't know, I guess they tend to underestimate I guess underestimate isn't the right word. People tend to look at these boards in kind of the wrong way, which is that they tend to look at them in terms of, there's a bunch of draws out there. How do I, protect my good hands, right? But the thing about it is the SPR here is actually pretty low. We're at an SPR of about 3. In fact, I think it's exactly 3. So ultimately, one way or another, if we are going to kind of, if we're going to put some money in here with our overpairs and things like that, there's going to be a pretty good frequency where we just get stacked if we run into sets. We get stacked if we run into straights, right? A lot of the time, it's not that easy to get away in these situations when it comes to just having the second best hand against a set or a 2-pair or something like that. Instead, I think what we have to be kind of mindful of is that it's not really possible for us to just bet at a high frequency here comfortably, because of how much equity the hijack range is going to have a lot of the time. And we're going to have lots of hands that check. We're going to have hands that can't bet here. We can't bet ace king of diamonds very easily. We can't bet like ace 10 of diamonds, like king queen of diamonds, various different hands, not just diamonds obviously, but various hands that can't easily bet here. And when that's the case, you have to make sure that you're not only checking weak to medium strength hands. We have to occasionally have some strongish hands that check. And I think the ones that are going to want to check the most here are probably going to be the ones that have the ability to realize equity best by checking back. So ones that are never really going to have to fold the turn. Stuff like aces, stuff like kings with a spade, stuff like these hands, those are not vulnerable particularly. And by contrast, hands like jacks, tens, ace 9, various things like that actually are quite vulnerable. So I would probably imagine ace 9 here is going to favor betting. It may not favor going particularly big, because I think if we go a bit bigger, then villain starts to have easier decisions. But generally, I would think that ace 9 with no spade is probably a little bit more in favor of a bet here.
Yeah, and we're saying like this would be like a big better check spot.
I think so. I think that it's maybe like a medium bet or check, okay. I would say. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't necessarily say big bet, because ultimately we don't necessarily need to put that many chips in the pot right now in order to stack off across 3 streets anyway, right?
Right.
And when we're in position, we don't always want to condense the spot from 3 streets to 2 streets or from 2 streets to 1 street, because that kind of neutralizes the benefit of being in position to begin with. So I would probably say, if we were out of position here, I would say we bet big on this flop with the intent to maybe jam a blank turn. In this spot, I'd say maybe we go with the half pot, just put some pressure on those Broadway hands, maybe put certain hands in kind of an awkward spot of whether they're going to check raise or not. I think 50% seems about right to me here.
Yeah, that was actually the correct size. And then we get
Boom,
jammed
nailed it.
on. And then we get jammed on for
All right.
52 bigs.
Well,
Wow.
this sucks, but we can't fold. We
Yeah,
can't.
yeah.
You can't fold top pair, top kicker here.
I know
this sucks,
Solver's never folding top pair, top kicker here.
Nah.
All right.
Solver's never folding it because Solver's going to assume villain has a bunch of draws, and honestly, in practice, people do have a bunch of draws when they do this. Like,
yeah.
They tend to, like, when they're check raising with value, like sets and things like that, they tend to check raise non all in because they don't want you to fold. Like, they don't want to have that frustration of you folded, some hand that could have maybe put more chips in.
Mm-hmm.
But when they do just jam like this, I feel like this is like queen jack of spades a lot, stuff like this. And obviously you just can't fold. There's too much in the pot. So we call it off and let's see what they have.
They have tens and we lose. Which
rough.
whatever. But yeah, like I think that was that was a great spot to look at, and also the analysis and everything, we came to the correct decisions. So that's all
that's
that
what matters,
there.
right? That's what matters. We got the decisions right. Yeah. Just to refresh you guys' memory, if you want to enter the giveaway, throw it in the chat. I'm all in for the alliance. Put that sentence in the chat, and we'll put you in the giveaway list.
Yeah, huge giveaway, guys.
We got a couple people in there.
Yeah, he's going to be giving away a free seat to his alliance this summer, which is jam-packed with amazing value. You guys get to study together, review hands together, learn from some of the best in the world. So, just take advantage of that amazing value. So, all right, we have ace-4 off in the cutoff with 80 big blinds.
Yeah, this one's pure open.
Yeah. This says 100% fold.
Really?
Ace-4 off. Ace-4 off. Cut off.
You gotta be kidding me.
80 bigs,
okay,
80 bigs.
Solver wants to fold this. I'm never folding this. You can't pay me to fold this hand.
That's actually a great... so I'm going to open this all day long if I look at the button and they're just a very, very tight passive player. Mm-hmm. I basically have the button here. So I kind of look at it like that, is if I know I'm going to have the button quite frequently, I'm opening this for sure.
I think that... If there's one reason that why the solver might be folding this, I think it's because we're using the set of sims that has a 2.3 open size, which might slightly restrict the open size. I think if we just went with a min raise, we might be seeing this one just min raise.
Yeah.
It's also going to be a product of being 80 bigs deep. I think if we went to 50-40, this would definitely be opening. But yeah, I mean, in practice, like I'm just never folding this, just because the frequency, as soon as you add in like a tiny small frequency of under 3-betting from the players behind you, like as soon as they're 3-betting like 2% less often than they're supposed to, now a bunch of hands that were close become good opens. So I'm just always going to open an ace in the cutoff here.
Yeah, and I think that's a very reasonable exploit there. And also, just going back to that last hand we played, I missed this in the Instagram chat. Gambling Goober said, never thought about that spot checking with aces and kings. Yeah, we have to look at our range and like protect some of our check back range that can actually contain value, and like aces and kings just don't need a ton of protection on that board, and we can realize our equity and everything Matt said. But yeah, so there's
so many players who when you see them check back that flop in a 3-bet pot, it's like, oh, you have ace king. Like you have ace king every time when you check this board, because you're never checking an overpair and you're not 3-betting enough to begin with. So when you specifically 3-bet and then you check back that board, it's like you have ace king 80% of the time and then ace queen the rest of the time. That's easy to play against. So
exactly. And I've found myself winning a lot of chips protecting my range in that spot, because players think that way, right? We got to think about how they're thinking about the game, and they're thinking, oh, she checks, she can't have aces or kings or queens or jacks here. She must have ace king. Like they always think I have ace king every hand.
That's like a meme, right? It's like putting people on ace king is like a low stakes poker meme, because it's everybody thinks everyone has ace king every single hand. It's
so true though. It's so true. And I've made a lot of chips by like checking flop, betting turn, betting river, or something like that. Anyway, all right. So here we did open the ace-4 exploitatively, and we face the big blind here, and the flop comes 9-5-4. So we do hit bottom pair on this somewhat dryish texture, and then big blind checks to us.
Yeah. So this is a spot that I think people go way like. I don't want to necessarily just say people get it wrong, but I think people miss a lot of aspects of this type of a spot. And I guess what I mean by that is they bet small here because it's like, oh, my opponent probably missed this board a lot. But the problem is that even though bet small is not costing you that much, this is a board where your overpairs are so strong that you really want to get a big chunk of money in quickly. Like you want to get a big bet in now before your overpairs start to get slightly weaker. And on top of that, your opponent's going to have a lot of hands here that facing a small bet are going to, have enough equity and enough realization to continue, but facing a big bet are going to be in a much tougher spot. So I think range-wise, this is one that I would play. I think you could make an argument for just like betting small with everything and then betting big with some hands, so just never checking. But I also think you can make a very reasonable argument here for playing big bet or check. And depending on the opponent, I think that either one of those two could be viable. But ultimately, I feel like if you don't ever bet big in these types of spots, you just never create big pots with your good hands. Like if you bet 2 big blinds here, sure, you're going to get away with it because villain's not going to check raise enough, but you're also not going to get enough value from your actual good hands because they're not going to check raise enough, right?
Yeah.
So you might as well actually bet like 5 or 6
Yep.
big blinds,
and
just shovel in a big bet.
Absolutely. And I think that this was a spot that I was very much missing a ton of value because we have to think about the big blinds range here too. Like they're going to have so many non-paired hands that might want to float, gutters, stuff like that, that we can actually get value from now. Well, maybe, yeah, depending on our bet size. But definitely a spot where I would just, I made a pair. I'm going to check this back because I bottom pair. And I think that we're leaving a lot of chips on the table when we do that.
I think in terms of this specific hand, it's always going to be kind of close when you have like bottom pair, top kicker.
Yeah.
Normally, there's a couple of pretty good rules of thumb here. I think the rule of thumb range wise is to think about, does my opponent ever have the offsuit 2 pairs? And in this case, they can have 5-4 off defending big, but they can't have 9-4 off or 9-5 off, and that immediately puts your overpairs in a way better position. So that's a really good like signpost that this could be a good big bet spot. The second rule of thumb here is that when you have a pair like bottom pair or middle pair, if you have top kicker, you're a little bit more inclined to want to bet it, because then if you bet it and you get called and you turn trips, you have trips with the top kicker and you can maybe sometimes cool off a worse trips.
Mm-hmm.
What you don't want necessarily is to bet like a weaker 4 here and then you get called by ace 4 and now you have the worst trips and they have the ace 4, right? So middle pair, top kicker, and bottom pair, top kicker, those are hands that if you're going to bet some middle pair and some bottom pair here, which you should, those are the best ones to bet a lot of the time.
Cool. All right, so what bet size do we want to go?
I would go, well, what are our options? 33, 66, 100.
Mm-hmm. And then over
I would just go, I would go 100. I mean, the sim might want to go 150 here, but I think 100's fine.
All right, it's not going to tell us because, we weren't supposed to open this hand anyway.
Yeah, we're not supposed to be here. It's
so
we're off in nowhere land.
Yeah, John asked us, what are we targeting for value, I guess, when we bet that flop? Are we targeting a 5? Well, we would be value owning ourselves if we targeted a 5 because we're losing to a 5. But
yeah, I mean, if we bet ace 4 and we're targeting certain hands for value, like we're getting called by a worse 4 occasionally, like stuff like 6-4, stuff like 4-3 that has a backdoor. We're getting called by ace deuce, ace 3. That's pretty meaningful because ace 4 right now is way ahead of ace deuce and ace 3. We're getting called by like 6-7. There's a few different types of hands here, but the important thing isn't that we're betting every bottom pair for value. It's that bottom pair is not necessarily a big part of our value range here, but we can't necessarily always check back every single bottom pair. So we have to pick usually one bottom pair type hand to bet, and ace 4 is going to be the best one.
Cool. All right, so now we're in no man's land here on the turn.
This is fun.
We didn't follow the solver, and the turn is a 6, and now our opponent leads into us for 3.6 bigs.
Yeah, this is fun. Like, these are the spots where, in real gameplay, this is just not happening. Like, this doesn't really happen much at all. You bet big on flop and then they find a donk on the turn. But this is actually something that's supposed to happen quite a bit after you bet big on the flop. I do think this is probably closer than it seems, simply because we're drawing pretty close to dead against most of the value hands here.
Yeah.
Like we might occasionally have some 2-pair outs here or some trips outs against certain hands, but we obviously are drawing dead against a straight. But we're also getting a really good price. I don't imagine we're ever going to bluff raise this, because I think our bluff raises are probably going to have a 7 or an 8 in them.
Yeah.
But I would think we probably call. I mean, in practice, like, it's really hard to fold, even though, this is probably not going to be a bluff very often. But yeah, I think we just call.
So then he checks river. The river's an offsuit queen. Board is completely rainbow. He checks to us. Now, I mean, I don't think we're ever turning this into a bluff. Right.
Yeah, there's not really any need to turn this hand into a bluff, because we just have equity to win at showdown. I think people make a lot of mistakes in river situations, just not realizing that even if you win this pot like 10 to 20% of the time, that's good. And the amount of success rate that you need to have on your bluff in order to make it win more than that as a profit margin on a bluff is pretty substantial. So being able to win the pot 10% of the time just by checking, that's pretty good.
Yeah. So our opponent actually also had ace-4 offsuit there.
There you go.
Yeah.
Chop it up.
So now we have king-8 suited, under the gun 1, 30 big blinds effective.
Yeah, I mean, this one should be pure open. I'd be surprised if the sim folds here.
Yeah, it's a pure open. And again, like, if you're watching this and you don't open king-8 of spades under the gun 1 with 30 bigs, you're playing too tight. And that was a big lesson that I learned. People are just, if you're not opening this hand, you're missing a lot of spots. And this was a spot that I personally didn't realize I wasn't opening enough. So we have blockers, we're suited, we are going to get heads up against the big blind a ton of the time, especially opening under the gun 1. So yeah, don't miss these spots. So anyway, we actually get called by the hijack in this spot, and now it's a pretty interesting board. Mikey says I suck. Oh, yeah. Shut up, Mikey.
What did Mikey say?
Mikey said I suck. Like, he sucks.
Oh, he sucks. Okay.
He's only won like 1 million rings this year, and is player of the year currently for Run Good, so...
Which Mikey is that?
Mikey Johns used to be an online poker pro. Now he's been playing live for this and just absolutely crushing it. He was my tag team partner a couple weeks ago. So
fun.
We had fun. But anyway, what's up, Mikey? Thanks for joining us. So we get the ace 9 8 2 spade flop, and we are out of position here. 28 bigs behind king 8 of spades.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. These out of position spots are really tricky, because you've got, on the one hand, you are going to get to a lot of flops where you have a stronger range than villain in the sort of, in terms of the top region of hands. Because, for example, on this board, you can have ace king and they can't really at this depth.
Right.
But you're also not really ever going to find someone flatting in the hijack with a super wide range. Like, it's going to be a pretty robust range of hands that interact well with a lot of flop textures. So I think you're going to end up in a lot of out of position spots where you just have to do quite a bit of checking. And this board might be a decent one to not have to check that much, simply because villain's range is going to have two categories of hands in there that occur at a high frequency. You've got pocket pairs and you've got broadways. The broadways are not that strong on this board, and they've got 7, 6s, 5s, 4s probably in range that are also not particularly strong on this board. So I do think there's probably a good amount of betting that we can do here, but I think that king 8 of spades specifically is a really good hand to check. And I think the reason for that is you don't want to be in a position where you just always bet your flush draws here. You don't want to just never be able to have a flush after you check the flop. And if you're going to check a flush draw, one that also has a pair is a better one to check, because you have showdown value even if you don't make a flush. So I would bet king 10 of spades a lot of the time here. King 8 of spades, 8, 7 of spades, spades that have an 8. I think I'm just going to check a lot of the time in this spot.
I agree. I think this is a really nice one to check here. Plus, SPR is going to be pretty small by the river, so we're not too concerned about getting stacks in, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, the turn is another 8, so...
Oh, fun.
So our opponent checked back.
Yeah.
So, which I would expect him to do quite with basically the range of hands that you kind of said, like, some of his, he's going to be checking back, because in theory, they should know that we can have a very protected range when we check out of position on this ace high board. So, all right, what do we do on this 8?
Yeah, so this is the interesting thing about this spot is that it's a turn card where, based on the stack depth and the positions, neither player is really supposed to have an 8 very often here.
Right.
Not only because it went check on the flop, but also just simply because they don't have that much 8x in their pre-flop ranges to begin with. So I think that we have to start looking a little bit at what's the overall range of hands that we're going to be value betting when we value bet this turn, and how polarized is it going to be. Ultimately, I would probably say we are still going to have quite a good amount of ace X that wants to bet this turn. We should certainly have at least some aces that check the flop with the intent to value bet the turn. And we're not scared enough of this 8 that we suddenly are checking an ace at a high frequency here. So I would probably say this hand in particular, King 8, is strong enough to bet at a very high frequency here, just simply because we have so much equity now that we're like, we need to get chips in to get some value. But I also think that the size that we want to go with probably isn't going to go bigger than that 83%, simply because we can still get stacks in on rivers quite a lot, even if we go 83. I don't think we need to make that overbet here, considering that Villain's going to have a lot of hands that just have trivial folds against an overbet, where if we bet 83, they can't really fold a 9. Like, they still have to call a 9 here. And that just kind of makes it better for us to be value betting an ace. Like, if they fold a 9, we can't value bet an ace. So we don't want to bet that big.
Right. Okay. So what there's like so many options here. I need to figure out how to make them less options.
You got to get the AI. You got to get Wizard Elite. You got to get the AI subscription so you can customize all the sims. You know, that's where you got to go. So yeah, I would go with the 83 here.
Okay, cool. All right, it didn't love that bet size. I mean, it's so close though. Like it wanted to overbet there.
Really? Okay.
And then a very small sliver of 83%. But like they're all so close in EV. So
yeah, it is. I guess what's weird about it is that this sort of one of the reasons why I don't love using this particular set of Wizard Sims, the sort of the ones that have post flop included, is because they do have some pretty weird bet sizes at times. Like, you can, D-Train in the chat here, I can see them saying, what about going full pot in the turn? Yeah, I mean, full pot is kind of a bit closer to what I would probably go with. I think that would be very reasonable there, because that is a bit closer to a geometric size. But this particular set of sims only has 83 or 125. So we're either going slightly smaller than what we want or slightly bigger than what we want. And in this case, the sim prefers slightly bigger, but in practice, I probably would have gone something like 90 to 100%. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So now we show up to a 3 river. Offsuit 3.
Complete brick, obviously. So feel like we are, feel like we're pretty comfortable here, right?
Yes, definitely.
So what do we like? Do you like the jam? Because I like the jam.
I think it's a perfect spot to jam, honestly. Yeah. A little overbet
Yeah, I think people miss the jam a lot on these rivers. I think people just they say, oh, well, I'm never getting paid if I jam. It's like, if you're not getting paid if you jam here, it just means you're not jamming as a bluff enough. And there's such a correlation where the people who, just from everything that I see from coaching, like the people who have the greatest inclination to size down their value bets, it's always people who intuitively recognize that they don't bluff enough, and so they compensate by going smaller with value, because that gives people more incentive to pay off. But in fact, the resolution for that is just bluff more and continue betting big, and just bluff more to give your opponent more of an incentive to call.
Yeah, so D-Train, you were right on track there with the overbet or the full pot bet on turn. And now, yeah, even just with us having a little bit over pot, it's still a nice jam spot. So let's jam here, which was the 100% correct play. There's no other play it likes there. We get called by the ace-5, so that's a spot where he's just gonna cry call there or whatever and just pay it off, and we get to double up. So
yeah, so someone in chat was asking how to measure the highest EV play in the first place. Measuring isn't something that you need to really worry about, because the actual EV calculations are extremely complex. What you want to try to get good at over time is estimating, and that just requires understanding the principles. It requires understanding the way that the game works at a core level, and what are the different variables and factors that contribute to higher EV or lower EV. And that just takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time and a lot of energy. There's no shortcut to it. There's no simple method to calculate it because it's an incredibly complex set of calculations. But the more you study, the more time you put in, the better you get at estimating what the right kinds of plays are going to be.
Right. We have a couple comments / questions in the Instagram chat. Brian says, anyway,
Sure.
you go against all hands, go big on turn and river, you don't get paid by missed draws. True. Yeah, we can charge draws on the turn. I think going big is definitely a good option. And then JP said, be curious to see the worst hand we jam for value here. Do we ever have ace-x here in that line, or do we have smaller bets with that size?
I think that you could go a couple of ways. I think if you do arrive at that river with any ace-x that's strong enough that it beats the majority of villains' bluff catchers. So if you ever get there with like ace-jack, ace-queen, ace-king, then there might be some merit behind jamming because it's not a massive jam. It's only a small overbet.
Yeah.
I think that you could put together a two-sizing strategy where you have one size that you bet with an ace and one size that you bet with an 8. But I don't know if it's necessarily super important to do that, considering that a lot of the hands that we're going to get to that spot with on the river, especially if we bet bigger on the turn, we're going to be pretty polar, and we're not going to have a lot of, ace jack, ace 10 type stuff that really, wants to try to go for max value in that spot on the river. I think we're going to be polar enough that we mostly can get away pretty easily with just having a jam or a check there.
Yeah, for sure. All right, thanks guys for all the questions and input. It's nice to talk about these spots. So so here we are in the big blind facing an under the gun 1 open to 2.1 bigs. We have king jack of diamonds in the big blind.
Mm-hmm. So this is an interesting one. This is one where I think this is going to surprise people, but I think this hand is actually pretty high frequency jam here, just because we are. A lot of these suited Broadway hands really like jamming at this depth because we can get folds from better. We can get folds from stuff like ace jack off, king queen off, and stuff in this situation. So calling is never really going to be bad here, but it definitely wouldn't surprise me if the sim wants to do some jamming. It might be a bit more of a high frequency jam against later positions, but even against under the gun 1, we probably would be making money jam here, making money by jamming. Sorry. And the one thing I think we don't want to do is 3-bet non all in, because it absolutely sucks to get jammed on here when you have king jack suited, because you just have tons of equity, but you can't really call off very easily. So it's either a jam or it's a call. It's obviously never a fold.
Right.
But I would expect that jam and call are probably going to be pretty close together.
All right. So it actually says 100% frequency call, and
okay.
I wonder, like, let's see.
Was it doing any jamming in this sim? It might not be doing that much at 30 against under the gun 1.
Okay, so it's jamming king 10 suited.
Okay, king 10.
Sliver.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
And then jamming 10s and 9s and ace king off at a, and then
that makes sense.
3-betting the strongest and then basically calling everything else here.
Yeah,
so.
that makes a lot of sense, just because the opening range is tight enough here that the jamming range has to be a bit stronger. But I think if we started to look against like hijack, cutoff, particularly button, I think this hand would start to jam a lot. But obviously the king 10 suited having more reason to jam is going to make a big difference, just because king 10 can fold out more hands that are dominating it,
Right. Yeah. So, okay. So we get the ace jack 7 2 spade flop, and I know that I somewhat struggle on how to proceed here when we see the jack in the window followed by the ace, and we're like, ah, crap. Okay, so
yeah,
so we're never leading on this flop, so we're just gonna check it over. Ace jack
everything.
7, yeah.
But I want to make sure we don't miss the question that came in chat. Someone said something about top 5. I can see the bottom part of it on my screen here, but I can't see all of it.
Says, when are you on the turn? What factors play a role on estimating the highest EV play? What are the top 5? Okay, yeah.
That's a hard way to. It's not an easy way to frame the question. What I would probably say is that if you're trying to look at a methodology for arriving at the highest EV play in a given situation, the thing that's going to make the biggest difference is making sure that the range that you're playing fits with either the bet size that you're using or the price that you're getting. So, for example, if you're facing a bet, if that's a small bet, the range that you continue with needs to be wider, and it needs to be raising for thinner value to represent or to cater to the fact that you're getting a better price. If you're facing a big bet, you need to be much narrower with the hands that you raise, and you need to be more specific and precise about the hands that you continue. And if you're betting, you need to have a more polar range. If you're using a bigger size, you need to have a wider range, more linear range, or a broader range if you are betting a smaller size. Overall, if you stay focused on that across multiple streets, if the bet size that you use, or if the raise size that you use or whatever is slightly off, it's not going to matter that much as long as your range is constructed in the right way for that size. So so in terms of what contributes to EV in the big picture sense, it's the range fitting with the price that's being laid or the price that you're getting.
Cool. Thank you.
No worries.
All right, so Villain goes with like a little bit more than one big blind bet size here. Yeah. How are we proceeding?
Makes it a little bit easier. I think any 7+ has to call here, or at least we can't ever fold any of those hands. We don't really have much reason to raise them unless we're, trying to just make sure we have coverage in our range. But yeah, I think King Jack of Diamonds, just clear call here.
Cool. Yep. So we're just calling. Turn brings double flush draw. It's the deuce of hearts.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, again, just don't see any reason to do anything other than a check
Yep.
here.
No donk bets on this turn. It's a complete brick.
Yep. So now Villain goes 4.4 big. So, I mean, I know in theory, we're never ever folding here. And I think in practice, we're just never folding as well, even exploitatively.
So Villain bet 4.4 into 8, right?
Yeah, half.
I think this is probably a closer spot than most people would think, just because this is a hand that when we have King Jack of Diamonds, there's literally almost no river on which our hand becomes better than a bluff catcher. So we're calling a turn bet with a bluff catcher in a situation where, on average, our hand is either going to get much worse on the river if the river is like a spade, a heart that completes a straight. There's various cards that make our hand get a lot worse. Or, let's say we make trips. Well, sometimes we're going to make trips on a heart, which isn't great. Sometimes we're going to make 2-pair on a heart or a spade. Sometimes, I guess maybe the Jack of Clubs specifically is like the clean river card that's like the perfect card.
Right.
But that's literally one card in the deck where our hand is like super good now. So I actually think this is probably pretty close. I think that we would want to have, I guess having a king is kind of good. We probably would be, I think if we had like Jack 10 of Diamonds, it would be pretty close to a fold here just because we would be blocking slightly more bluffs. I think that, you're probably right that this is probably a call, but I think it's a lot closer than people would think.
No, I agree. And there's been there's times where I just quote unquote know Villain is quote unquote never double barreling here with anything less than an ace. And it's like at a very, very, very almost 100% frequency, like just because we know how tight they are. And this lady or this OMC or whoever is just never double barreling with less than an ace here. So there's times where this is an easy fold in the game. And then there's times where it's close. And I think understanding your opponent is a huge hero fold better than a hero call. Yeah. Okay. So what are we doing?
I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. Hero fold is better than a hero call. I think if you never do either of those two things your entire poker career, you'll still do okay. Like if you just never hero anything and you just like stick to what is a reasonable approach, like you're going to do fine. There's not really any specific reason why like folding too much is better than calling too much. Like they're both bad,
Right. So what are we going to do here?
I would say call, but mostly just because I'm really curious about how close it actually is. I think there's a lot of players that we should fold to in practice here, though.
In practice, I agree. There are some players we're just never ahead of there. So it was a pure call, 100% on turn, and then the heart 6 comes in on the river. So backdoor hearts come through again. Just checking every time here.
Oh yeah. I think with this specific hand, we have to check. I do think it's possible we will have some donk bets because we have a decent frequency of backdoor flushes here because we have all the ace X of hearts and jack X of hearts in our range.
Yeah.
But this specific hand has no reason to not check. So yeah, we did check, and I guess we just did we win? Did we win the hand? I can't see the villain's hand.
Yeah, so villain has ace 3 of diamonds. So
okay.
Yeah, but we get to realize and whatever.
Yeah. How can we check how close the turn was? Like what the EVs were?
Yeah. So fold was 0.
Fold is going to be 0. Yeah.
Yeah. Raise was 0.35.
What about call? How much is call actually making?
0.86.
Okay, so we're making less than a big blind. That's actually a little bit more than I expected. I think if we were looking at a bigger bet here, if we were looking at like a pot size bet or something close, which is probably what I would expect at a higher frequency there on that texture.
Yeah.
I think that would really push us to the point where King Jack of Diamonds would be right in that territory of basically break even.
Yeah.
I think that the fact that villain bet 4.4 is really the only reason why we can actually consider continuing that.
Yeah, and JP says, do we call turn simply because of the sizing? I mean, it makes calling turn easier, right?
Yeah, it does. And it's worth noting that we're calling turn here specifically because there's an expectation that there's a certain frequency that villain just checks back the river and gives up on a bluff. But if that's never happening, calling turn becomes a little bit more tricky.
Cool. Yeah. All right. Let's.
Just before we go into the next one, I want to remind you guys we've got 13 minutes now of the giveaway. 13 minutes left. If you want to be in the giveaway for a free seat in the Alliance this summer, very high value program that we've put together, I request. I guess what are we requesting? We're requesting that phrase in the chat. So
yeah, I've been writing down all the ones in Instagram chat too.
Okay, nice. So we've got.
I wrote down every single one so far.
The secret phrase in the chat is going to be, I'm all in for the Alliance if you want to be part of the giveaway.
Yeah.
Write that in the chat, whichever platform you're on.
Huge value, guys. It's going to be some world-class players, fitness, mindset, just really going to help you improve and also hold you accountable this summer during the World Series grind. So huge value, guys. Don't miss out. All right.
Yeah, so next one.
Okay, so Queen 10 off, 80 bigs, under the gun 1.
This is another one where I think you probably can get away with opening it in practice, but I think you actually you're supposed to fold here.
Yeah.
Like this is just going to be a fold.
Yeah. Same with ace 6 off, 50 big blinds effective under the gun. We're folding that.
Oh, yeah. We'll
get rid of that one. All right, here we go. So we got King 10 of hearts in the cutoff, 25 bigs effective, and we're facing an under the gun 1 open.
Oh, okay. This is fun. This is another one where I would expect we're jamming at some rate here for 25.
Yeah.
Again, these suited broadways really like to jam if they have the ability to get better hands to fold. So I would think this one's going to jam at some frequency.
Okay.
So someone mentioned it's not case sensitive or punctuation exclusive, Trev. So you can just write it in there. Someone mentioned they're not going to be at the series for very long. That's okay. A lot of our players are only going to be at the series for a short period of time. The learning is going to continue throughout the summer and even beyond that. It's going to be a platform for you guys for your poker growth going forward in a holistic way. It's not just going to be for players who are putting in a full series or full schedule this summer. No matter how many or how few events you're playing, you're going to get a ton of value from this.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome, guys. I'm gonna be in the group the whole summer, and I'm very excited to see how this keeps me more accountable, more just focused, and because you can really get lost in the summer, man. You start thinking about all the losses, the bad beats, the all-ins. It gets so daunting when you're there for that long. And even if you're not going to be there for that long, keeping yourself sharp, in tune, fine-tuning things, and just having that group is going to be just invaluable. So
yeah. And I'm honestly, I'm excited for what it's going to do for me too, because keeping myself sharp and keeping me studying every day, keeping me posting hands and things like that, giving feedback to everybody. I'm super excited for how much that's going to help me with the events that I'm playing. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
So I think this is a spot where you agree play as a call here, or
well, you mean the King 10?
Yeah, King 10 of hearts.
I would probably play this as a jam, truthfully. Okay. I think that call is fine too if we're looking at chip EV. But the weird thing about 25 big blind chip EV is that there aren't really that many situations where you are 25 big blinds deep, but you're still in the chip EV phase of the tournament. Like a lot of the time when you're 25 bigs deep, there's some small element of ICM at least. So the opportunity to actually jam this hand at this depth doesn't come along as much as we might want it to, you know. But I do think if we are playing chip EV here, jam is pretty good. Okay. Call is also going to be fine, but this is another one where if you 3-bet small here, it really sucks to get jammed on. So yeah. I would go jam followed by call as my preferred options here.
Okay, so let's jam 0% jam, pure call.
Oh, really?
Here.
Oh man, I'm jamming too much. I'm just jamming all these suited broadways, man. Is it just prefer calling here?
Yeah, 100% call.
Okay.
I mean, whatever. All right, let's play it as a call just so we can kind of see this through, because this is a spot too where we have a hand like King 10 of Hearts, and now we are in position against Under the Gun 1. The flop comes Jack 8-3 with 1 heart, so we got some stuff working here.
A little bit of equity there.
Yeah.
Not a bad flop.
JP says 3-bet non all in with worse King X. I certainly don't think it's a good option.
Yeah,
okay.
I think that's fine.
Because you're gonna get better King X to fold too.
Like, yeah, it can't really be high frequency there because you are up against Under the Gun 1, but I think some of the King 9 and below, like that's going to be, you know, some frequency of 3-bets there. Yeah.
Yeah. So Under the Gun 1 now checks on this Jack 8-3, 1 heart, 2 spade board to us. Matt, take it away.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a spot where if you look at these situations where you've got where we're the in position pre-flop caller, quite often what you're going to see is that we actually have to be relatively aggressive, but not too aggressive, because if our opponent is, you know, playing well, like we're expecting the solver is going to play well here and play perfectly, right? So if our opponent is constructing their out of position range fairly well here, then they're going to be protected enough that we can't bet too often, but they're also going to be weak enough that they give us some incentive to bet at some rate. Right. So a lot of the time, you're actually going to see a bunch of hands just kind of mixing 50-50 here in these types of situations.
Yeah.
In practice, people are a little bit weaker when they check here than what they're probably supposed to be. So in practice, I would just almost always bet this hand for like 1.5 or 2 bigs, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. We have 1.35 or 2.2 here.
I would go 1.35 just because it's super small and we're shallow. So we want to just keep keep multiple streets in play. We don't necessarily want to, you know, build the pot too quickly when we're the in position player.
Yeah. Poker Now Club joined. It says, love this great stream. Thank you so much. Thank you. Glad you're here.
Yeah.
And appreciate you guys
welcome.
So much. Yeah. Welcome. So yeah, a thing that you just said that I wanted to just highlight was stacks are shallow, so therefore bet sizes or raise sizes that normally would have maybe been a little bit bigger here, we can now kind of scale those down a little bit because of SPR. Yeah. So let's keep that in mind too, because I know that I have not always done a great job of recognizing that and then kind of putting myself in a weird spot because I bet a little bit too big or raised a little bit too big.
Yeah, and I think it's also quite common for people to think about shallowish stacks of like 20, 30, 40 big blinds even. They're very keen to put a lot of chips in and like reduce the opportunity for them to have to make decisions on later streets. But the problem is that's not really going to put your opponents in any tough spots. Like you're not going to be able to make it more difficult on your opponents while also making it easier on yourself, right? So in fact, the way that we're actually going to manifest a much bigger edge is by being willing to play in position, multiple streets, forcing them into tough spots, using sizes that force them to continue at a higher rate, like force them into like weird turn and river situations and things like that. If you just like bet big on the flop and then shove the turn and you don't even play the river at all, like it might feel easier for you, but it might be also easier for them. It probably will be also easier for them, especially if they're the out of position player. So I think smaller here is going to be better in a lot of cases at these lowish kind of SPRs.
Yep, and what's fun is this gives us just more playability. We always want to be able, we give ourselves options, right? And so when we give ourselves options, it's just better in general. So yeah, all right.
We don't want to have fewer options. You know, having fewer options is not really very often going to be a good thing.
Exactly. All right, so it looks like all EVs is so close here.
Just mixing everything.
Yeah, literally everything. It said the most viable choice was 33%. So we're right in there. Literally, it's
Sure.
slight
Yeah.
difference. So yeah, we're great there betting that one big. So now villain checks to us again on the turn. We have the 6 of hearts. So we get the heart.
Interesting.
Yeah, and this again is another spot where I'm like, okay, picked up equity. Do I check and realize it, or do I use this as a card to fire here? We have king high. How likely is that good here?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I feel like people are quite likely to maybe do a bit too much checking in these situations with hands like King 10 of Hearts specifically, just because it is true that there are some draws that want to check here because they really hate getting check jammed on. But I don't necessarily think this is one of them, because we really do only just have a flush draw plus 1 overcard. We don't have any kind of extra equity, and our flush draw isn't even the nut flush draw. So if we did get check jammed on, it would be relatively comfortable for us to fold it, especially if we were to just bet something like 6 bigs and get jammed on here. It's not really that big of a deal to get denied the 20% equity or something that we probably have here against the check jamming range. Like, having to fold out a small amount of equity doesn't matter that much. If we had something like 9-10 of hearts though, or queen 10 of spades, or something like that has like combo draw in this case, that's the stuff where it kind of sucks to get jammed on, because you really can't fold at that point when you have like 30, 35, 40% equity, but you really also hate calling it off. So I think I would bet a lot of the flush draws like this one here and be checking a lot of the combo draws, because the combo draws are the ones that really don't like to get jammed on. So I think betting here for, I guess I would probably go with the 5.15 size. I mean, in reality, I would go like 6.5, so it won't let me do that. But I would go 5.5 or 7.8 here.
Okay. I feel like I get surprised sometimes. Like, sometimes it likes to go, okay, that was the bingo answer. So great job there.
Yes. Nailed it.
Okay, I was gonna say, like, I feel like, let me see. Okay, it's really just betting that size or checking. Which is great. Yeah, that's good. So I was thinking 33% some of the time, but it's like barely in there. So
yeah, I think most of the time, the thing about going small on the turn in those situations is you're still reopening the action. So you still kind of have to deal with the possibility of getting check jammed on. So a lot of the time when you are betting the turn in position, you're not that often going to want to use small sizes, because the small size and reopening the action in exchange for maybe just checking instead, like, a lot of the time there's not a ton of benefit to it.
Right. So now, okay, just correct me if I'm wrong, but now we arrive on the river here. It's a offsuit 7. Villain checks to us, and I think our hand now specifically is such an amazing bluffing candidate, because we block the stone nuts with the 9-10. We block one of their strongest jack X, having the king.
Yeah.
And like, we have just really no choice, kind of, to bluff jam here.
Right. I certainly agree that we pretty much have no choice to bluff jam. I don't think the fact that we block the nuts is actually that relevant, because villain isn't really going to check call 10-9 of hearts very often, twice here.
True.
So I feel like blocking the nuts is kind of nice from the perspective that it's harder. It's like we're blocking their blockers. We're blocking them from having like jack 10 of hearts. But if anything, we just have to find bluffs. Like, we have to find quite a few bluffs, because we have quite a few value hands here. We have some sets. We have some ace jack, some king jack. We have some traps pre-flop maybe. So I think we just bluff. I think this is a pretty good hand for it. And I'd be surprised in practice if this is doing anything other than
I know. It's
well.
Like, the solver always surprises me. But JP says, I don't love having hands that block bluffs and heart draws. I mean, is the heart draw blocker super relevant here? Like,
I mean, I think it would be relevant to some degree, but we have to be considerate of what exact hearts we block. And there aren't that many heart draws containing the king or the 10 that villain is specifically going to check call twice. Some of them are jack X, like king jack of hearts, king 10 of hearts, and we block that, which is good. So we're really only blocking like king queen of hearts, ace king of hearts, king 9 of hearts. Maybe they check call that on the flop, but they might bet that sometimes too. Like ace 10 of hearts, like there's only a few. It doesn't really matter that much. Like we're unblocking a lot of like pocket pair stuff, and I think we're fine just bluffing this hand.
Cool. All right, let's go all in. Yeah, that was 100% the only move. Boom. There. So
nailed it.
Yeah, and right. I think we got called, or did Queen Jack fold? I didn't see what happened.
Queen Jack's a bluff catcher there. It's probably going to mix.
Yeah.
Hey,
So
we hit 6 o'clock. We gotta wrap up the giveaway.
All
We
right.
hit giveaway time.
Perfect.
All right, guys. So do you want to do Wheel of Names? Is that gonna be the best one probably?
Yeah. Do you want me to pull it up here?
Yeah, I think you'll have to. I don't think I
Okay.
can do it
What
from
is
my
it
side.
called?
Just wheelofnames.com. If you just like copy paste the list of people that you have
Okay.
into wheelofnames.com.
Okay. So I only have the Instagram names.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So do we have names anywhere else?
Oh yeah, we got a lot of them on.
We got a lot of names. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Here, I'll go. Oh shoot. I'll go through right now and.
Yeah, you just got to copy paste names in there.
Yeah. So
if you guys want to enter last minute, get your entry in there, right? I'm all in for the Alliance in chat. If you want to be in the giveaway for the Alliance seat right here.
Yeah. Okay, actually, there's not as many as I thought, so not too bad.
Okay.
Won't be too bad.
Cool. All right.
All right.
So just while we're doing this, while you're taking care of that, Ash, I'll give people the full final kind of sales pitch here. So if you're curious about the Alliance, we have basically starting on Monday, we have 2 weeks of prep sessions. We have an initial kickoff meeting. We have a coaching session with High Roller Crusher Sam Laskowitz. We have another session with we have another session on health and fitness. That I think that's the health and fitness session is on the Monday of the second week. Let me just look at the schedule right here. So where's our schedule? Prep sessions. Okay, so Monday we have the initial kickoff meeting with the whole group where everyone gets to know each other. Wednesday we have Sam Laskowitz's guest session where he's going to be talking about some high leverage turn bluffing spots, which are going to be really interesting. Thursday we've got tells and behavioral reads with Blake Eastman, and we've also got a high performance session from Paul Salter, who's a hypnotherapist and nutritionist.
I've worked with
Friday,
him, by the way.
Yeah, Paul's great.
Yeah.
Paul's great. Friday, we've got a session on staking and action selling with Mika Richards, followed by a bonus session from myself on game selection. Saturday, short stack exploits with Matt Bode, followed by another bonus session from myself. Monday, 19th of May, health and fitness with Nick Zoutra, PhD, followed by goal setting and big picture thinking with Britt Bovey, who's a life coach. And then we've got Tuesday, 20th of May, range construction principles with Diane Zimmerman, followed by more coaching from myself. Thursday, 22nd, elite performance with Jason Su, followed by a surviving the summer Q&A with Matt Berkey, my Solve4Why colleague, Solve4Why founder. And then on Friday, 23rd, we've got our final guest sessions, performing under pressure with Steve Baker, who's a mindset and performance coach, followed by a mixed games Q&A with poker legend, WSOP legend, and double bracelet winner Steve Zolotow. And then finally on Monday, 26th of May, we've got our final strategy huddle and a coaching session preparing for the Mystery Millions bounty tournament in that first week of the WSOP. And then throughout the series after that, we're going to have weekly coaching sessions as a group. We're going to have preparation for specific events. We're going to be talking about hands constantly on a day-to-day basis. We're going to have meetups in person. We're going to have all kinds of different tools and resources available for people, solver outputs, bounty calculators, all sorts of things like that. So these are the things you're going to get access to if you're the winner of this giveaway. So
yeah, amazing.
How are we doing on putting this together?
All right, I've got them all in here.
Okay, great. You want to spin it?
Yeah, I think I got Lee D in there. Wait. Yeah, he's in there. Thanks, Trev. I got him in there. Yeah. All right. So we want to spin it?
Do you want to scroll it down just a little bit so it's in the center of the screen? It's kind of like cut. The bottom part of the wheel is cut off right now.
Oh,
on the YouTube
sure.
screen.
Yeah.
The other scroll wheel to the right of that. The main scroll wheel.
The main scroll wheel.
So there's like two scroll bars on the right hand side. There's the one for the window with the names in it, and then there's the one for the actual window. You had it just a second ago. There you go. That's fine. That's totally
you
fine.
were on a delay. Okay. I was like, wait.
Oh.
Okay. It's Andrew though. You don't see your name. Okay, I didn't see your submission. My bad. Did not see that. All right. Thanks, guys. I'll put that in there. I don't know how I missed that.
This website has so many ads on it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know where they all came from. When I used it the other day, it didn't seem to have those.
I got y'all in there. Thanks, guys. Alex, you didn't put the freaking phrase in, Alex. All right. If you did, I'm sorry. Okay, here we go. We want to spin?
Let's go, guys. Let's spin it.
Here we go.
All right, countdown. Let's go. 3, 2, 1. Spin it.
Trev!
Oh, really? I'm
Let's
still on delay. I can't see it.
go.
I'm still on delay. All right. Well, I guess it's Trev then. Wow,
Yo,
that's crazy.
Trev's
I feel like Trev was one of the most active people in chat this evening.
He's
I
like
promise,
one of
guys.
he's one of my best friends and also like one of my best mods. So
Oh, that's
he's
amazing.
tried to win so many giveaways, so I'm actually really happy for him.
That's awesome. All
That's
right. Well,
awesome.
congrats, Trev. Congratulations, Trev. Welcome to the Alliance, Trev. For those of you who were not successful in this giveaway, we still have 24 hours left in signups. Signups don't close until midnight tomorrow night Pacific time. And we still have the discount code for all of Ash's viewers. If you just put the discount code PokerFaceAsh, you get 30% off. So if you want to sign up for the Alliance anyway without the free giveaway, please do go ahead and do that. You're going to get tons of value out of that. And welcome to the Alliance, Trev. Ash, you can pass on Trev's contact details. I'll talk with him and get him on the Discord server, and Trev will be ready to go for this summer.
Yeah. Thanks, Poker Now. Thanks, Hands. Alex, I got you in there. Yeah, thank you all, everybody in the chat. Super fun, and I've really been enjoying these, so I'm excited to kind of continue this this summer. And
absolutely.
And yeah, you guys, please check out the Alliance. There's discounts, and also he's lowered the price too, and it's just such high value. So please, if you didn't win, still check it out. Yeah.
Yes.
So
we have I think we have 6. I can't remember exactly how many spots we have left. I think we have 5 or 6 spots left. So we do have some spots. Go get signed up. If you want to crush this summer, this is how you're going to do it.